There's nothing worse than the word art appreciation. It implies that you're just there awestruck and whatever you're being fed, you appreciate. Art really is about discourse and about discussion. Do you have any ideas what museums could be?
Decolonizing museums. Art, like not having stolen things.
If the art is for the public, then the public should have a right to express their opinions and views.
As a young artist, like sometimes I see things and like get so frustrated and feel like nothing has changed.
From the very beginning, we have been fighting against sexism, racism, and the death hold that wealthy people and wealthy institutions have on art and culture.
$40 million, 1506.
The Guerrilla Girls will complain about anything that pisses them off, and they always do it in an unexpected way.
What the artist has to say about things other than his or her art has not always been considered that important by the arbiters of the art world. And the Guerrilla Girls were at the forefront of doing that starting in the 1980s.
The power of the Guerrilla Girls' work was that whenever I looked at their material, I felt implicated. It wasn't somebody else's problem, it was my problem.
I'm one of the founding members of the Guerrilla Girls, and I've been involved in just about everything the Guerrilla Girls have done since 1985. I'm kind of a lifer, but I am, in my real life, an artist.
And I'm also a founder of the Guerrilla Girls and also a lifelong political artist. In fall of 1984, the Museum of Modern Art did this exhibition, an international survey of painting and sculpture. There were 169 artists in the show and only 17 women and very few artists of color. And women artists in New York were really pissed off.
We were educated to sort of respect all the institutions and the people that were making decisions and the people who were writing art history. But it dawned on us that it was filled with its own biases and limitations.
We're marching in a picket line in front of the Museum of Modern Art, and we realize not one person going into the museum cares. And that was the aha moment. It was so clear that there had to be a better way to convince people and make them understand how much discrimination there really was, both racism and sexism in the art world.
Most of the women who are doing all the bitching are completely talentless. For example, like the top women artists, you don't hear them making these embarrassing feminist pleas.
The more we looked at the numbers, we realized that there was a systematic elimination of women and artists of color from the so-called mainstream of the art world.
What does it mean that museums are getting subsidies and have no obligations to be ethnically diverse?
We thought it would be really important to just state the facts and see what people did with the facts. We met at my loft. We were just a hodgepodge of artists. We called ourselves the Guerrilla Girls because we had to become anonymous to say what was obvious. Kata and I came up with the two first posters. The very first poster was this list of male artists who allowed their work to be shown in galleries that showed fewer than 10% women or none at all.
When one worked, we would do another. When another worked, we would do another. The facts are a hugely important part of it, but also we had this kind of outrageous in-your-face design and crazy headlines that you couldn't totally ignore. We passed the hat around to pay for printing. We were sneaking around New York in the middle of the night putting these things up, and people saw them and all hell broke loose. We mostly did them in Soho and the East Village, which were the big art neighborhoods of that time. So we put these posters up on the gallery windows, right below the name of the gallery.
It was so exciting to go out the next day and to see a dialogue being ignited. I remember a gallery director came by with her son and he sing-songedly sang, "Mommy, why is your name up there?"
If you look at the art schools, at least half of them are women. So what happens to these women? Where do they go? But that's not the art world discriminating. That's their choices.
The advantages of being a woman artist.
Working without the pressure of success, not having to be in shows with men, having a relief from the art world with your 4 freelance jobs, being reassured that whatever work you make, it will be labeled feminine, knowing your career might pick up after you're 80. Over the years, about 60 people were in and out of the group. Collaboration was wonderful when it worked. It was painful when it didn't work. We didn't understand where it would go, but we knew that what we were saying, moment to moment, was something that was irrefutable.
Kind of new on the scene here, but I love it.
Well, do you ever think to count how many women, how many artists of color?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And does that change your attitude or your idea?
It has a lot. And the idea, I think that's why maybe my mother and grandmother were never really that interested, because they didn't see anything that was done by people that look like them.
I always felt distance from the socioeconomics in the art world. I grew up in Pittsburgh in a working class family. There was a lot of trauma in my family with parents dying and getting sick, and I had a lot to take care of. So I really never felt the freedom to rebel in my adolescence.
I grew up in New York City. I was an activist in my teens, and I got kicked out of college for being in a demonstration, and that kind of pushing the envelope has always been my life, and it's always been the kind of art I do.
I was uncomfortable with this idea that there was a level playing field because it was not my experience in life or in the art world. So the minute I felt the freedom to criticize it, it was wonderful, it was great. It opened up a whole part of my brain. I couldn't stop. I can't explain why, but I couldn't stop. And it became as important to me as anything else I did in my life.
Those of us who were unfairly left out of the system, it was like a breath of fresh air. It seemed daring, it seemed exciting. And the people on the posters were really pissed off.
They now feel they have to contend with us as a power. And it's very bizarre to be at a point where I get more respect with a gorilla mask on than I get with it off.
In 2006, we had at the Tate Modern a small room with a group of the Guerrilla Girls posters. But I was put on the back foot by a journalist, grilling me about precisely what the Guerrilla Girls were charging us with, a lack of representation of women artists, lack of diversity, and I had no way of responding. My inability to respond was published in The Guardian. I felt profoundly exposed, profoundly embarrassed. And in that moment with Guerrilla Girls, wonderful pink letter really resonated with me. That idea that I had agency in this and I had to take some responsibility.
Dearest art collector, it has come to our attention that your collection, like most, does not contain enough art by women. We know that you feel terrible about this and will rectify the situation immediately. All our love, Guerrilla Girls.
About a year later, I took over the leadership of building the International Collection, and I presented a strategy to massively broaden the diversity of the collection and to really address the representation of women. That moment with the Guerrilla Girls was profoundly influential.
They're wonderful individuals on the inside trying to change things. But there is a corporate capitalist institutional structure that's connected to much larger forces.
Right now, art institutions do not get enough government funding, and so they're reliant on individuals to donate to them to make art exhibitions happen. A lot of the people are very wealthy individuals for whom art is an investment asset, and so they will support exhibitions that raise the value of their art collection. I feel like in any other industry that would be considered insider trading or something, but it's not.
Guerrilla Girls Code of Ethics for Art Museums. Thou shalt not give more than 3 retrospectives to any artist whose dealer is the brother of the chief curator. Thou shalt provide lavish funerals for women and artists of color, who thou planneth to exhibit only after their death.
We did a whole series of these posters. After many years, we thought it would be great to do an updated version and build the actual monument and drag it around to every museum we could possibly get to.
Thou shalt honor all thine employees, never undermine their efforts to unionize, and pay them a living wage. Thou shalt banish board members who make the world a worse place.
If thou exhibiteth super expensive art, bought at super fancy galleries and donated by super rich collectors for super big tax deductions, thou must rename it thyself the Museum of Super Rich People's Art. Everybody, this is a monument we think needs to be outside every single museum. So who wants to talk?
The public has no say whatsoever. They just go and look at their art. What these museums are doing is they basically turn it into a business.
You are now an honorary Guerrilla Girl.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now I think in a lot of these institutions, they've clung on to the fact that it's trendy to be like putting art out there that is promoting social justice, but when you look at what they're actually doing in practice, it doesn't support those ideals.
Oh, I agree. We think that trustees should be chosen who make the world a better place. What did you see in the museum today?
Oh, we didn't yet to go in. We came to meet you first.
Oh, that's so
we
nice.
saw it on your Instagram.
I consider my art guerrilla art. Well, like I like put a poster up in my city in India and stuff like that about mental health.
That's wonderful.
Fantastic.
This is great. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
That took
Thank you
like
so
15.
much.
Well, we've been so lucky that people all over the world want our work.
The Guerrilla Girls' work has always been statistics. People don't believe you unless you show them the numbers. Without the numbers, you really have a false sense of diversity.
For the last 20, 25, 30 years, we get people saying to us, I never knew this before. Our stuff is easy to understand, and then you take off with it on your own.
I've been teaching now for almost 30 years. I make sure that my students are aware of the Guerrilla Girls' contributions. They get museum shows in Europe, not so much in the United States. I think that that's an indication of the resistance still to the practice and to the message of the Guerrilla Girls, despite the fact that there are probably, 200 art history majors writing papers on them right now.
One of the most exciting things for me has been the shift where the younger generation are learning about the Guerrilla Girls earlier and earlier in high school, or they saw the work on social media. It gives me a lot of hope. It gives me a lot of hope.
Bye-bye. And I hope you find things that you love to look at. Can't we think about art as not being about winners, but about something that we all need in our lives? Thank you so much, and good luck with your own work.
This is a big moment in my life.
There are so many cultural traditions where art is collective and it's done in a community, and artists work together. They might do individual work, but they somehow present a kinder idea of what it means to have a creative life.
Come over.